What is the Bears' succession plan if Shane Waldron leaves in 2025 or later? Do the Bears already have an in-house replacement? I've already spoken length about how big of a deal it was to land Shane Waldron as our offensive coordinator. He was my favorite candidate and the hottest name on the market. He's familiar with the Shanahan-McVay style of scheme, and his work with Geno Smith still hasn't gotten enough recognition, turning him from a career bust to the comeback player of the year and a 4,000-yard passer. The work he did speaks for itself. In his first year with Geno Smith, he threw for 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. Both would be franchise records in Chicago. But what if Shane Waldron leaves? Do we already have someone on the staff that could take his place? I think Thomas Brown, our passing game coordinator, is that guy. He already called plays for the Panthers in 2023. So that means after not having an experienced play caller on our offensive staff in pretty much the last decade, the Bears coaching staff now features two guys on our offense with experience calling plays at the NFL level, in Shane Waldron and Thomas Brown. Not to mention that Eric Washington has also called plays on our defense before, and this coaching staff now features four coaches with experience calling plays, two on offense and two on defense, as Matt Eberflus has a ton of experience calling plays himself. But back to the offense. One of the biggest worries of fans is the fear of losing Shane Waldron if he has a ton of success with Caleb Williams early on, and what would happen after he left. Today, I want to talk about the Bears' succession plan if something like this were to happen. I believe Ryan Poles has already planned ahead for it, and there's a ton of reason for optimism here going forward. Thomas Brown, a 37-year-old coach who's rising fast through the ranks and already has experience as a play caller. He was the assistant head coach to Sean McVay when the Rams won the Super Bowl as well. Last year, he left LA to take over as the offensive coordinator for the up-and-coming Carolina Panthers. Frank Wright was the play caller, but after an 0-6 start, he handed the play calling duties over to Thomas Brown, and it led to the Panthers' first victory of the season. 3 weeks later, though, and Wright would take the play calling duties back against the Cowboys. That sounds like some Matt Nagy type stuff. And guess what? They lost that game 33-10. A few weeks later, and Wright was fired, Thomas Brown would again resume play calling for the Panthers. Obviously, the Panthers didn't win much last year, but Brown was calling plays on offense for both of the Panthers' wins. On top of that, he was also calling plays for three other games that the Panthers lost by just 3 points, including the near upset win of the Green Bay Packers on Christmas Eve, where the Panthers put up 30 points. Thomas Brown gives us two coaches on this staff with experience calling plays in the NFL, but on top of that, there's more to Brown's upside as a play caller and more reasons why he could be the perfect succession plan if we do lose Shane Waldron in the future. The former Georgia running back rushed for over 2,500 yards in college, and he ended up getting drafted in the 6th round in 2008. His rise through the NFL's coaching ranks has been fast. After spending 9 years in college, coaching mostly running backs, he took over the University of Miami's offensive coordinator job in 2016 at the young age of just 30 years old. After having success there, he was hired in 2020 by Sean McVay to be the running backs coach. After just one season with the Rams, he was promoted to assistant head coach and got to work directly underneath Sean McVay. It was clear that McVay saw the upside in Thomas Brown and wanted to keep him around. After winning a Super Bowl with the Rams, he left and became the offensive coordinator of the Panthers. Now he's the Chicago Bears offensive passing game coordinator and potentially the next in line to call plays for this offense. This is where it gets a little bit more interesting, actually. Brown has interviewed for multiple offensive coordinator positions in the NFL, and he believes in progressive football and egoless play calling. That all sounds great, but he actually puts it to use by definition. He's the opposite of a Matt Nagy, and he puts his players in position to succeed. He has a tendency to bend his play calls and style to best fit his players. He doesn't try to get his players to fit his system. That might sound simple, but in today's NFL, egos run wild. And having a coach that understands how to best get his system to fit the talent around him, that's something that cannot be overstated. Especially with a roster full of playmakers, it's so important to have coaches that listen to feedback from these guys. Great coaches let players be themselves and teach them to harness their skill set and get the most out of them. I gave the Shane Waldron hire an A plus earlier in the offseason. But being even more overlooked were the hires of the rest of the coaching staff. Thomas Brown is an up and coming coordinator in the league. And on top of that, there's another member of this offensive coaching staff that I have a ton of respect for. Kerry Joseph, who was with Waldron in Seattle. He was the quarterback coach for Geno Smith's remarkable turnaround. Kerry also worked with quarterbacks at the Senior Bowl and the NFL Combine, and he's highly thought of throughout the NFL. I actually had the pleasure of watching him work firsthand down at the Senior Bowl, and I love what I saw. We have Shane Waldron, Thomas Brown, and Kerry Joseph on this offense. And on top of that, we have Chris Morgan coaching the offensive line and Chris Beatty with the wide receivers. I feel like this is the best coaching staff I've seen for the Bears in my lifetime. And we have multiple succession plans if we were to lose Shane Waldron going forward. What do you guys think? Where's your confidence level in this coaching staff, especially the guys below Matt Eberflus, the staff he's assembled? Today, we're talking mostly about the offense, but I also think we have a pretty impressive staff on defense. John Hoke for the DBs. Eric Washington is our new defensive coordinator. This coaching staff has a lot of guys who should move up in the NFL. Remember to hit that like button for me, guys. Stay tuned, and until next time, claws up and bear down.